Now, when I was a boy, I was told I wasn't manly enough to watch Masters of the Universe with He-Man and his friends. So I had to go down the street and hang out with all the girls and watch She-Ra, Princess of Power. While I may have missed out on He-Man fighting Skeletor with people like Beastman and Men-at-Arms, I was surrounded by chicks. Who's the manly one now? Today we're looking at somebody who's not a man. She's a woman. Sorry, it's 2021. Not allowed to use those terms. She's not a dude, she's a chick. Today we're going to review this custom Shadow Weaver statue from She-Ra, Princess of Power. As the Extreme channel is pushing towards 50,000 subscribers, these are just a few of the statues we are giving away on the journey there. If you want to know how to win one, stay tuned for later in the video. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into the Extreme channel. I'm kind of in a weird situation right here because I don't own this statue. This was actually sent to me by a fellow collector named Ken Jones. Big shout out and appreciation to Ken Jones. Is actually part of a Masters of the Universe line that I've not only bought some pieces, but I've reviewed some other prototypes. What I'm talking about right here, this is part of this line right here. You guys have seen me review the prototypes of the Merman. Of course, I own the He-Man and Battle Cat right here. And as I said, this is a custom piece. It means it was a private unlicensed commission. They only made 20 of these. They're thinking about maybe doing another batch of 20 more, which is why the commissioner asked Ken to send this over to me. Nonetheless, we're going to take a look at this. So this is not a prototype, it's an actual production piece. So all the other 19 pieces that came out look just like this. If they did another batch, it would look exactly the same. So before we dive into the statue, let's talk about Shadow Weaver a little bit. Shadow Weaver is kind of an interesting character. Shadow Weaver, as I said, is from the Masters of the Universe. She is part of She-Ra, Princess of Power. She is one of the main adversaries. She is actually second in charge of the evil ones, or the bad guys, and she runs with the Horde. Number one in charge is Hordak, which recently I reviewed this license piece from Tweeterhead. And if you want to see what these two look like next to each other, make sure to check out the Extreme channel Instagram, Facebook page, and TikTok, because I did some shots of both of them before I'm sending this back to Ken. Now, as you may be able to guess, Shadow Weaver is a sorceress. She knows how to use magic and telekinesis and telepathy and all this other crap. And she actually used to be beautiful, but the more evil she got, the uglier she got, the deeper her voice got, and she became less and less appealing. Although, if I had 4 or 5 beers, which is kind of a common occurrence, I might say hi to her. Now, one last interesting fact about this character is, if you know the history of Masters of the Universe, a lot of the origins were actually with the Mattel Toys line, and that actually spawned some of the animated cartoons and even movies. Well, Shadow Weaver was the opposite. She actually came first in the film, and it wasn't until about a decade ago that they actually got the licensing or the rights to actually create action figures and toys of her. So it was kind of reverse compared to most of the Masters of the Universe line. But with all that, let's take a look at this piece because it's pretty cool. Now, this is based off of the animation aspect, or the filmation. They're doing the entire line based off the filmation. So when you look at this, you're going to see some stuff that doesn't necessarily have a lot of realism to it because it's meant to be based off of an animated film. So first thing we're going to look at with her is the concept. And it's pretty simplistic, but I like a lot of what they did here. So first you have a very small compact, which has some tiebacks to what I believe is her lair. It's kind of cool. You see a little bit of snake in there. It's not really the Snake Mountain with Skeletor or anything like that, but I see a little bit of that. You see almost a creature with the horns on the back, the different colors of green, the kind of fire red symbol on the front. And as you move up, what I really like about her, she almost looks like she's levitating. And when we get closer into design, I'll kind of show you how they did that. But she is in her traditional garb, her traditional cloak. Now, she did have a few different variations of this at the animations, if I remember correctly. But it's this pink color. There's not really a lot to it, but you see some nice female form. Part of the cloak is falling in the back. And you have two things going on with her arms. On her right arm, she's actually reaching out, casting a spell. I really like that. They use this translucent resin on the end to kind of create this magic effect that looks great. And you saw on the left hand, she's holding her staff with this giant orb on the end. Very sorcerer-like. I really dig it. Move up even further, and you see like an Orco-type head. You can't even see her face anymore, just her beady eyes. And her hood is flowing back. It's pretty cool. I like how basic it is, but it still tells the story of Shadow Weaver. And like I said, I think it'll pair really well with a lot of Masters of the Universe pieces, especially in the Filmation line. So concept, it's not incredibly complex, but I don't think it needs to be. I think it's a 4 out of 5 on the concept. I really like it. Design, I think there's a lot of advantages as well. One is how compact it is. So let's get the measurements really quick. The widest point see that? It jumped away from me. Is 8.5 inches. Deep is about 7.5. And then her tallest point at her hood is just under 19 inches. So she's not going to take up a lot of room. And her assembly was pretty easy as well. Let's take a look at that. Extremely small and light box, which was very, very nice. Traditional white foam, as you might see within a custom. And then it was just one layer, not very many pieces at all, including the switch outs. There's some switch out options. Her arms, you can switch out both of her arms for just regular arms. Let me show you. The left, here's a picture of the staff with the orb on it again. Then here's a picture of just a regular arm with kind of the fingers outstretched. Then the right arm, the magic effect we talked about. And then a regular right arm kind of reaching out. And if I owned this one, those other arms would go back in the box and stay there. I think this is definitely the way to display. And of course you could do a combination of either arm. So the magnets were really strong, no seams. One thing, take a look down here. If you're looking at it from the back, you do see that big key that turns into the peg that goes in. And this gives you that illusion of her floating. Because take a look at the front, it looks like she's really floating. So I actually like how they did that. Because most of my statues I display from front on anyway, so it makes sense. The design, again, not incredibly complex, but everything, I can't think of a way to improve it. So it's a 4 out of 5. Paint and sculpt, this is where I really like some like hyper realism and some micro detail, but just like that merman, because this is based off the Filmation line, you're not going to see that in here. But this does look like it came straight from your TV set, which I really appreciate. So let's take a look. So let's actually begin with the top, because it just kind of occurred to me, have you guys noticed that people are a lot more attractive with masks on nowadays? Seriously. Everyone that walks by seems like they're good looking, so your mouth and your nose obviously do quite a bit for your attractiveness, of your face at least. So first let's talk about her outfit. I like this pink color. Like I said, I think it's really true and true form to the Filmation. There's not really any wrinkles or anything like that, but you typically didn't see that on screen either, so I think it follows that well. There is a pretty decent, I would almost use the word voluptuous form of the character. You can see her chest, you can see her hips, and then almost a shadowing of her legs, her knees right there. And like we talked about, it has that cool floating effect. But I like the color. There is some shading in it, you can definitely tell. I like how the cloak up here, the hood actually overlaps a little bit. Then on the side, very, very basic. Like I said, reminds me of Orko, just the black spot with the yellow painted eyes, but it's very clean, which is nice. Now her skin is kind of this off-tone green. It's appearing a little bit more green on camera than it is in real life. It's more of a mix between gray and green, but they did a fabulous job. Check out how pointed her nails are. I love this clear resin effect right here. Looks really good. Reminds me of something they would use for Doctor Strange in a different color. The staff looks fabulous as well. Nice solid silver paint job with kind of it's interesting how the orb looks. It almost looks translucent, but not. So I appreciate how they did that. I'm not sure how they did it, but props to them. Now down below on the base, like I said, this is probably reminiscent of her lair that I'm unfamiliar with, but I like how they stuck with these blue, green, and then orange colors, and then the fangs or horns coming out of the back here. They have a little bit of a mix between green and brown and gray, and just the directionality of them are pretty cool. But it almost looks like scales on the top there with that green color. It just flows really well, really brings you back to your childhood. And then the orange red fire portal on the front. At first I thought these were buttons for a light up feature, but they're not. I think they just add to the design so it's not as monotonous. And then you continue to see that orange coming down on top of this blue teal purple shading color. So I think it's done really well. It just makes it pop, brings it to life straight out of my screen. Or at least my TV screen growing up. All right, paint. Again, they're very intentional to kind of match what you would see on the TV, not add any truism or things of that nature to it. So with that being in mind, that's the goal they're going for, I think the paint is done really well. It's really clean. I like the blending on it. It pops. I think it's a 4 out of 5 on the paint. Sculpt. There's a lot less to the sculpt. I think it's done really well and it captures the character really well, but I think that it's basic, which is weird for me to say because I really can't think of anywhere I'd improve it, but it's a 3 out of 5. It's still a very good sculpt. It's just not one of the best I've ever seen. Not a lot of the micro details or anything crazy out of the box. But if their goal was to hit the filmation and make it look very close to that, I think they knocked that out of the park with a 5 out of 5. So value on this. Right now, like I said, they only did one batch of 20. If they got enough buyers, they do another batch of 20. I think there's a couple left of the original batch, like 1 or 2. $550. Pretty affordable for a 1/4 scale piece figure. I really appreciate that. I think that's a great value on a character that's not done very much. And if you're doing an entire Masters of the Universe line, kind of have just a smaller one, just 5 or 6 of the characters of the 50 there are. Absolutely think she's one you want to have, especially when you think about like Sideshow's She-Ra. Fantastic one to pair with that, or Tweeterhead's Hordak. So I think the value is great. I think it's a 4 out of 5 on the value. Very good. But does this have the X factor? Is this a 5 out of 5 statue? So honestly, I didn't watch much She-Ra growing up. I was a He-Man guy, so I'm not in love with the character, which instantly makes it not an X factor for me. It's still a very cool statue. I still think it's a 4 out of 5 if you appreciate this type of statue, which I do. So I think it's a 4 out of 5, and I'm very impressed with it. Ken's a lucky guy to have it, and I really appreciate, once again, Ken letting me review this, so I will get it back safe to you, sir. To win one of these statues, all you have to do is make sure you've liked this video, you've subscribed to the channel, you've hit that bell notification, and then just drop a comment below. Every 5,000 subscriber milestone, we are going to do a random drawing and pick a random comment and give one of these statues away, plus some additional ones I'm not showing right now. The more videos you comment on, the higher your chances are to win. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. It'll enter you into that contest. Do you like this type of statue that stays so true to the original source? Would you like to see them modernize it? I don't know. I think there's parties on both sides. But also smash that picture of me. That way you can get subscribed and hit that bell notification. And I don't know why I just changed my pace of voice, so I better let you go. Talk to you